Hey everybody, so I was about to start making the eyes for my current piece, and I wanted to record this because I realized that I don't have a video on how to make eyes in this particular technique. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. This is going to be a method where you make the entire eye yourself. So I have the printed out irises here. I'll show them to you. There they are. I printed these in two sizes, in 1.5. It's actually supposed to be millimeters and 2 millimeters. So I'm going to be using the 2 millimeters because I've used this size before, and it's a very good size for the size of sculpture that I'm doing, which is about 5 inches tall. So the 2 millimeter irises are a great size for that scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the manicure scissors, these little guys here. They're curved, and I'm going to cut out the irises of the color that I want, and then I'll show you what to do from there. I'll spare you the boring cutting. What I'm going to do is I'm literally going to cut around the iris as close to the color as I can. And the circle, I'm not going to just cut out a square because you'll be able to see that. So I'm going to cut these out, the color that I want, and I'll be right back with you guys. Here I have the irises cut out in a circle that I was talking about. There they go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the eyeball itself so that I can put those irises on the eyeball. I'm going to take my white clay and make my eyeballs. What you want to do, or keep into consideration when you're making the eyeballs, is to keep looking at your printout so that you can have an appropriately sized eyeball. So this printout here is the 5-inch printout, and as you're making the eyeball, you want to put it up against the printout here and make sure that it's not too big, not too small. This looks okay. I'm going to shave off a little bit. And now you have 1, 2 compared to the other. So I want it this size, and this guy's too big. So I'm going to take some off here. And we'll see how that looks. Pretty good. So what I'm going to do is take a stylus of the right size. I'm going to use this one. This is roughly the same size as these irises over here, and that's the size that I'm wanting to aim towards. So I'm going to take one of my eyeballs and I'm going to make an indentation Then I'm going to grab one of these irises. And I'm going to put it in the indentation that I just made. Maybe use a stylus again and kind of push it in there so it's secured. Flip the stylus around to get the smaller areas. So now, as you can see, it's pretty deep in there, secure. So we're going to do the same exact thing to the other eyeball, and then we're going to have two. So just repeat this process. And here are our two eyeballs. We have both of the irises inserted in there, and now I'm going to cure them. What I did was I made a little stand for the eyes. When I make eyes, I just roughly shaped out a little stand, made indentations on the top for the eyeballs to sit on so that they wouldn't roll off, and I cured this. So I'm going to put those eyeballs on top of here. Like that. And then I'm going to put this in the convectional oven that I have. Because these are so small, I'm only going to put them in there for, I want to say maybe 15 minutes or so, just to make sure that they're fully cured. So let's go show you what my oven looks like. So I've switched stations, and this is my curing station. This is my Denny convection oven that I have. It is my absolute favorite oven because what it does is it has the heat come from the top and it goes down around the sides and then back up towards the center, so it evenly heats whatever's in there. It's got a temperature control and a timer. It goes off by itself and it turns off when it's done. So I'm going to put the eyeballs in here so that we can cure these guys. I don't need this in there because I'm not going to be curing a sculpture body. Just these guys. So we'll put them in there. This has to be down all the way for it to work. Push this button, push that all the way down. So the clay manufacturer states to put it at 275, so that's what I always keep it at. And then I'm going to do this for 15 minutes. And then once it's done, it's going to sound a loud bang. That's how I know it's done. And then once it's ready, I'll show you guys what to do from there. These guys are out of the oven and I've let them cool completely, so now I'm going to add the glossy part of the eye, and for that I'm going to use the magic gloss. So I'll show you guys how I apply that. It's very straightforward. You want to make sure there's no air bubbles. There's one. It's been kind of tricky. There we go. Okay, so I've applied the magic gloss and you can see the little dome on each side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it in the UV lamp box so that it can cure the gloss. That way the gloss will be nice and hard. So let's put it in there. Alright, so I'm going to put these guys in the lamp and I'm going to cure them for about 15 minutes just to make sure that they're as hard as they can be. And turn this guy on. And then just let them cure. I usually have a timer on my phone, so they could be in there for an accurate amount of time. And then I just come back and check on my lightly tap on the dome gloss with like a needle tool to make sure that it is in fact hardened. And if I think it needs a little bit more, I'll just put it in there for, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 minutes more. But 15 minutes usually does the job. So after this, they should be as hard as they're going to get, and then you'll have a very beautiful looking eye. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. Here are the eyes, guys. They are right out of the UV lamp. That's what they look like. They look pretty good. And they will look even better once they're inside the head. If you want, and what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put some more magic gloss on the eye, but I'm going to spread it around the actual eyeball with a brush and not just the pupil, so that the entire eyeball is glossy. I think it'll add a much more realistic effect. And I just remembered that this is only one of the techniques and methods that are my favorite. There's another one that involves a sewing pin that I will actually make another how-to video on, and that one is my absolute favorite because it's the most proportionate, it looks the most realistic. But this, I wanted to make the eyeballs with this specific clay because it's the same type of clay that I'm using on the body for the sculpt, and you will see why I made that choice. So, one last look. You can see the depth, and they are hard. Now it's just a matter of putting it in the head, and I will actually continue this video and show you how to put them in the head and cover them up to make them look beautiful. So let me show you guys how to put those eyes that we just made in your sculpture's head. I'm going to use the wood tool and just space out the socket. Make it big enough for the eyes to go into. I'm going to make it deep as well so that the eyes can be set back into the head. And I'm just going to try and match the sizing of these sockets. I'm also going to use my big stylus. It actually is a pretty big ball there. And I'm going to use this to push this even further back. So that the eyeballs have a little nook to fall into. Looks funny, right? So that looks big enough for the eyes. If you noticed in the eyes when I was showing them to you before, they have a couple of air bubbles, which I think adds to the effect to make them look like they're looking in the same direction. Since each eye has a single air bubble in it, which was accidental by the way, I'm going to make sure that the air bubble is at the top of the eye, just to keep the symmetry realistic in the direction that the eyes will look like they're looking. So let's find out where that air bubble is. There it is. It's the air bubble right at the top. So I want that to be the top of the eye. And let's put it in the head. And because I made these so big, it'll just drop right in there. And then I like to use my X-Acto because it kind of, sharp end kind of grips the eye, so I can position it. See how the bubble's right here? I want to rotate that to the top. And then push it in a little bit with the blade so that it does move around. There we go. Now you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. Turn it to the side to make sure that it's deep enough into the head. It's not right now, but I'm going to push it in with my wood tool after I place them both in the head. So again, I'm making sure the air bubble's on top over here. And it is easier to place these in the head with tweezers, but I don't have those with me right now, so I'm just dropping them in there. I changed the exposure on the camera so that things would be clearer and not as bright or washed out. Hopefully that helps. So I'm just positioning the air bubble on top. And this is the point of the process where you want to make sure that these eyes are looking in the same exact direction before you go any further, to avoid having wandering eyes looking in different directions. So this is really the point at which you want to do that. And you can do that by getting different views, turning it different directions. It looks like it's aligned pretty well. So now I'm going to secure them in the head even more and use this flat side of my favorite wood tool and just kind of push them into the head. It's really a preference on how deep you want them. So this part is kind of up to you. I like to get a top view to see how deep they're actually going. And in this process, while you're pushing them in, you also want to keep looking at the eyes constantly to make sure that as you're pushing them in, they're not twisting or rotating within the socket, because then that'll throw them off of alignment as well. So you want to do it nice and easy. Take your time. There's no need to rush, because this will contribute. Taking your time here will ultimately contribute to the quality of the end result. So it's worth taking your time, as I have learned, sadly, time and time again. They look like they're about the same depth. I'm just looking from here to see if they fall along the same depth. If not, it's just very minute pushes back into the head. And we've successfully kept them looking in the same direction. Alright, now we can start shaping everything how we want it shaped. Push everything back in because it kind of got pushed out in the process of us making these nooks for the eyeballs. Pushing it in here, blending all these seams. I take these little pieces of lint off as I notice them. It's easier to do it this way than to have to sand them out later after it's been cured. Okay. Now it's just a matter of getting clay and adding the upper and lower lid, and then shaping each lid individually one at a time as you put them on, so it can have the eye shape that you want, which will create the face that you're looking for. So let's do that. I'm going to condition some more of the same clay so it's soft and easy to work with, because it's going to be really small amounts for the eyelid, and I don't want that clay to be stiff or hard to work with. the heat of your hands really helps with softening the clay. Alright. So I'm just going to eyeball this. As I like to say, it's always better to have too much than not enough. So start off with a small amount. Roll it out and cut this in half because I think that'll be enough for the top and the bottom for me to shape it into how I want it to look. So there you go. Let's put it on there. I always shape this to be on a slight arch like this, and then just put it right on top. Like this. I do it right from where I want the tear duct to be. Just like that. Just lightly tap it in there to secure it. Just blending cracks as I see them. That's why it's good to constantly move your piece in different directions so that the light can catch every possible mistake that you don't want on there, or imperfection. So now I'm going to push this further into the head and into the eye as I'm shaping it in the shape that I want it to be ultimately. And on these eyes is where I like to use they call them color shapers, but they are rubber tips, and they're exceptional at creating minute details and getting in those tiny places that your fingers just can't go. So for example, here I'm going to use this to shape the eyelid into how I want it to look. And the flexibility is great. We got our first eyelid on there. I don't like to work on the same side. I don't want to finish this entire eye just because working on both sides at the same time, step by step, will keep it more proportionate, in my opinion. So I got the second. Upper eyelid here. There we go. Make it into the arch. There we go. And now to the other eye. gently push it in onto the clay. At the same time you're shaping it. And here goes my color shaper. I like to call them clay shapers because that's literally what they do. They shape the clay. So I'll refer to these types of tools, these rubber tip tools, as clay shapers from now on. But they're technically color shapers. That's how they're sold on eBay in their description. So I'm just shaping the upper lid just like I did on the other side. Let's see how this left lid's a little higher. So I'm just gonna take this and do it in a rolling motion to push it down a little. And when it's down, you just reshape it into the shape it was supposed to be in. Flipping it upside down so I can see things that I need to fix. Because different views, different perspectives will show you different things. We also want to be shaping the brow area to match the expression that you want it to have. She's going to have a pretty mild, focused expression, so I don't have to worry about it too much on this piece. Now let's get those lower lids on there. So I'm going to condition clay, just like I did before. Place them in those little arches and then I'll come back and show you guys once I've done that to apply the bottom ones. Okay, so here's the lower lids, right from the inside tear duct. I'm just going to lightly push it in place. So once you have it on there, you can shape it. And then the same exact process for the other eyelid. Push it into the tear duct. Blend the seams. I'll just shape it as you see fit. And now we're getting a pretty decent looking face.